Thrill Me.
This show is part of the Thrill Me Podcast Network. Experience more on Facebook and YouTube.
Heyo, and welcome to the Review It Rob Show. I'm, of course, your host, Review It Rob, coming at you with the latest in news, the latest in what's releasing this week, and, of course, a review this week, which will be for the Morbius film that released last week, man. Saw that Thursday night, so opening night or special preview night, whatever they call it. Had to see it that night, man, because last week was a wrestling-packed night. Friday night was SmackDown, and, of course, the WWE Hall of Fame. Then you had WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 happening Saturday and Sunday, man. So it was action-packed week that was last week, man. But first and foremost, appreciate you all joining in to listen to me talk and ramble on about the movie news. And then, of course, hope all of you out there doing good, man. Hope you had a great weekend. This is the last time you joined here. This is, of course, like I mentioned before, the Review It Rob Show, which is proudly part of the Thrill Me Podcast Network, which we got to hang out over the weekend, man. I can talk a little bit more about that soon, but Thrill Me Podcast Network, make sure you check out our YouTube page for all the fun that goes on over there, and, of course, the Facebook page for all the fun there. But teased it there a little bit over the weekend, man. Thrill Me Podcast Network crew. Zach Speakeasy, got Zach, Mr. Wonderful Show, we got Mr. Wonderful, got myself, and the newest member of the Thrill Me Podcast Network, person I've known all my life so far, my brother, with his Metal Groove Show, has now joined the Thrill Me Podcast Network, which is just very fitting because we all have been working together for a very long time, and our podcast lives have interconnected with each other for a while. So now having us all together as one in the Thrill Me Podcast Network is amazing and awesome. And we, like I said, we got together Saturday for night 1 of WrestleMania, and we, talked the whole time and had a good time and experiencing all that and just being able to watch WrestleMania with my buds, my bros, my amigos, my pals was a fantastic experience that I will, honestly never forget. And, technical hangout. Hopefully someday we'll be able to all hang out in person and watch this thing, but till then, you can take what you get, and that's what we got, and it was a great time, man. So, like I mentioned, over the weekend, since last time we talked here last week, a lot of stuff going on. Had the new Review It Rob show come out, and then, of course, I released 2 shows on my Patreon. Released a new episode of The Spook Show and a new episode of Flix It, man, so it was cool to get those out there. And then, like I said, Friday night was SmackDown. Last SmackDown for WrestleMania, we had the Hall of Fame, which was a great thing. And the Hall of Fame is always a great experience to see people who have given their lives and given for their craft and their career and taken all these bumps and put their body through so much hell to finally, get recognized and get their recognition and placed into the WWE Hall of Fame. So, of course, great experience with that. It was awesome. The Undertaker, all of it. Everybody was awesome, man. Just a great experience across the board from everybody who went in this year. Everybody very well deserving. Multiple moments where I was shedding tears and crying. And, of course, The Undertaker went into the Hall of Fame taking his rightful place as the absolute legend that he is. And he just gave an amazing speech the whole time. It was so cool and seeing, because, if you follow wrestling, The Undertaker, you don't see him all that much. Of course, over the last couple of years, he's been more out there. We've gotten to see The Undertaker do more interviews and everything. We got to know all this stuff. And now that whole Hall of Fame experience was awesome. Going into Saturday night 1 of WrestleMania, got to, like I said, we got to hang out and, a lot of great stuff happened night 1 of WrestleMania, man. We got a new women's champion in Bianca Belair. She's regained the crown of the Raw Women's Champion. pretty solid match, man. They had a good match going on. Some definitely rough shot. She got kicked in the eye, and you can notice if you watch Raw tonight, her eye is pretty swollen and closed. So hope the best for Bianca Belair. Hope she gets better. But of course, have that championship gold is a good thank you, if you will, or a good, you know what I mean. And other great stuff happened that night. We got the Logan Paul match, man, which nobody knew what to expect with that. But honestly, haters are going to hate, man. All the credit in the world to Logan Paul for being his first wrestling match ever on the grandest stage of them all, man. He did a great job in that match. Of course, it helps when you have legends like Rey Mysterio on there helping you out. But he did really good, man. I thought he did great and played the villain role fantastic. Good on him. Biggest thing that happened Saturday, well, two big things happened Saturday. One being the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, returned home to the WWE as the mystery opponent for Seth Rollins, the worst kept secret in wrestling history, maybe. But he had just an absolute amazing experience from what I understand. I don't watch AEW, but from what I understand, that is the entrance he had was his entrance from AEW. And like I said, he went out there and Seth tore it down, which is, to be expected. Seth Rollins, amazing performer. And, Cody Rhodes, fantastic as well. So those two had a match, and it was an awesome match, without a doubt. The other thing that happened is, man, freaking Stone Cold Steve Austin. He returned to the ring for the first time in, 19 years. Not the first time he's been in the WWE ring. He's been in the WWE ring a couple times. At a couple of WrestleManias after WrestleMania 19, and he was at Raw in the Thunderdome, which is very awkward because, Stone Cold's very, in with the crowd. He's always getting the crowd involved in things. When there's no crowd there, kind of an awkward situation. But he came back. Thought it was going to be just a KO show for a while there. And he ended up being, Kevin Owens was like, I lied. I got you here because I want to challenge you to a match. They ended up having a freaking no-holds-barred brawl all over the arena, and it was awesome, man. Just seeing Stone Cold back out there, having a great time. Kevin Owens deserves all the credit in the world for how freaking good of a professional he is, man, and they had a great job. Great entertaining match. Another thing, I think probably something that blew my mind. I don't know if it blew the rest of the Throw Me Podcast Network's minds, but it blew my mind seeing the Charlotte Flair Ronda Rousey battle. Those two, and I say battle, man, because it looked like they were beating the hell out of each other in that ring. They had no love lost between them at all, and they just went out there and they battled it out, had a fantastic, battle, and Charlotte won. Was not expecting that. And I think a lot of people were expecting Ronda Rousey to win. Thought Charlotte's going to drop the title here. She's going to take her break. She's going to go get married to Andrade. And they're going to, and then she'll come back. But surprise, Charlotte won, man. I hope this sets up for Shayna getting revenge for her friend Ronda. But I'm sure Ronda and Charlotte will end up having a rematch in the future. And then we go into... And, a lot of good stuff happened Saturday night. And then we go into Sunday, WrestleMania Sunday, where the main event is the unification of the championships. I know other people who listen to this show for movie news are like, dude, what are you talking about? I talk wrestling on the show too, my babies. It's okay. I'm going to get to the movie news. Don't worry. But before we get there, Pat freaking McAfee had his dream come true of having a WrestleMania match. He went up against Austin Theory, which is an entertaining match, man. It's great to see Pat out there. Pat's a freaking talented freaking dude. And he did great out there. And then all of a sudden it turned into a match with Vince McMahon. And freaking that was the thing. And Pat did a great job selling for Vince McMahon. McMahon ended up winning the match from, devious tactics as always, as it is with Mr. McMahon. And then, of course, as he and Austin Theory is celebrating, none other than Stone Cold Steve Austin decides to come out there and open up a can of whoop ass. Oh, where? Can I get a what? What? But yeah, he came out there. He did his thing. He kicked their asses. Vince McMahon took the most awkward Stone Cold Stunner of all time. What you're saying? What? Vince McMahon always takes awkward Stone Cold Stunners. You're right. He always does. And then Pat McAfee got in there. They were celebrating. Then, of course, Stone Cold, what'd he do? Hit him in the gut. Hit him with the stunner. Down with McAfee. Freaking DTA, dude. Don't trust anybody when it comes to Stone Cold. Or you know what? DTA. Don't trust Austin. Because he always gets you, even if you're pals. He's going to get you. He is the rattlesnake after all. And then, but it was a funny moment. You got to see Pat laying on the ground outside pouring beer into his mouth. Hilarious. So great time there. What I'm referring to now is the Jackass match. We had Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn Sunday night, which was hilarious from start to finish. Just an absolute blast of a time there. I reviewed the Jackass Forever movie last week, right? Last week's episode. Yeah. And then, this thing was just a fun experience from start to finish. Again, Sami Zayn, bravo to you, man. He carried that match so well. Not to say Johnny Knoxville didn't do a great job. He did a great job. But, just the professional that Sami Zayn is, was able to get all that stuff to sell very well, and he did fantastic. You had all the other jackass characters out there like Wee Man. Wee Man picked up Sami Zayn, slammed him like Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant back in the day, and it was just spectacular, man. And of course, the main event for WrestleMania, the unification of the championships. You had the WWE champion Brock Lesnar, the Beast incarnate, versus the Tribal Chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns, the WWE Universal Champion. And those two went at it. They had a brawl, man. They fought it out. And at the end of the night, of course, as we all expected, he can't be topped. He's the longest reigning Universal Champion in history, and now he is the unified WWE Universal Champion. That's right, Roman Reigns now holds both titles, man. We're going to see what happens there. He was on Raw tonight. He said, Friday night, you will get my plan of what's next for the Bloodline. And on top of that, it looked like Roman may have hurt his arm, man, during that Kimura lock. I know maybe he's selling it very well, but arm looked kind of a little rough. If you look at some pictures from last night, it looked like something could have happened with his arm, and he was favoring it pretty well here tonight on Raw. So there's that. Other thing that happened here tonight, last thing I'm going to talk about wrestling-wise, I know this is mostly a movie show, so people are here for the movie stuff, but watch WWE, man. It's fantastic stuff. It's sports entertainment. You probably enjoy it if you're a movie person, because professional wrestling, as I've always called it, athletic theater, baby. Cody Rhodes started off Raw tonight. He came out there, told a great story about Dusty Rhodes and how he hoped to one day grab the WWE Championship and hand it to his father, who he's sadly not able to do since we lost the Dream a while ago. But now he said that doesn't mean I can't win the championship now and still hold it proudly for him. So he's put it out there that he wants the WWE Championship or Universal Championship. We'll find out where that ends up going. But Cody Rhodes made it clear that he wants that big championship. He wants the big one. That's why he came back. He wants the big championship. So he's coming back for that. Seth did come out during that, and he shook his hand. He said, "Welcome home," and then he left. So we'll see what happens there. Seth's always got something up his sleeve, man, or up his very loud suits. But nonetheless, man, we had the return of Elias, now going as Ezekiel on Raw tonight. Veer returned tonight. So good stuff, man. It was an all right Raw. It's nothing big and crazy happened tonight, but that's fine, man. It was a good action-packed Raw. Braun Breaker is now the NXT champion. They had an NXT championship match on Raw tonight. Interesting, but hey, I'll take it. Fine. And then there you go, man. Like I said, that's the wrestling talk. Thank you for all bearing with me if you're not a wrestling fan. Like I said, check it out, man. WWE, you'd enjoy it. WWE is sports entertainment. It's freaking a TV show. It's produced like a TV show. You'll enjoy it, man. Like I said, athletic theater, dude. But that does it there for the wrestling news. Great weekend. Had a great time hanging out with my buds. Make sure you check out their shows. The Metal Groove has a new episode out now, as well as Haunter's Podcast has a new episode out now. Later this week, depending on when you're listening to this episode, you probably already listened to these shows, because I'm sure you listened to my show last, because it's not as important as the other ones. But the Mr. Wonderful Show has a new episode coming out this week, and Zach Speakeasy has a new one coming out this week. So action-packed, jam-packed. We got freaking all forces together now on this Thrill Me Podcast Network, man. It's great. So going from there, we should now jump into our movie news. And hate to start it off this way. Never want to start off the news in like a somber or sad way. But unfortunately, this is one of the big things that happened since the last time we talked, and that is that, unfortunately, Bruce Willis is being forced to retire from acting. The legendary actor will be stepping away from acting after being recently diagnosed with a language disorder that has caused some brain damage that affects his ability to communicate. And this is something that was being noticed on set recently before this announcement came out from his family, where he did end up dropping a gun on one of the film sets while he's filming and having a hard time with his lines and needing lines to be repeated, man. And, it's a sad situation. You hate for anything to happen to anybody. And, again, Bruce Willis, legendary actor. And, I like Bruce Willis. I've always had some kind of respect for him because I do recognize him as a legend for, of course, the Die Hard films and countless other movies. Last Boy Scout, fantastic movie. He was great in the whole 9 yards, the whole 10 yards, all that stuff, man. And of course, M. Night Shyamalan movies he did, and just, countless other things he did throughout his career. It was just, and he's got a lot of other films actually still coming out. So while he is retiring from acting, he did shoot a lot of films in the process. He's been doing a lot of movie work and a lot of like video on demand films or films that are being released under the radar. But he has shot a lot, and he still has a lot of films coming. Just to say, he's got a movie called Fortress 2, which is releasing this April, on April 29th. which is actually the third movie of his already released in 2022, the short amount of year that it has been already. We're only in April, but he's had 2 movies released already, and then Fortress will be the third one. The other 2 were Gasoline Alley, which is an action thriller that was released back in February, and A Day to Die, which was released back in March. Now, following Fortress 2, he has a film called Corrective Measures, which will be debuting in April on Tubi. He has a revenge thriller called Vendetta, which will be premiering on May 17th. That film gets a limited theatrical run and will be available day and date on demand in September. He has a movie from Saban Films coming out called Die Like Lovers, which is about a former Black Ops soldier who takes the place of a man who died as part of an experimental military program in order to find out who killed him. Now, we don't know exactly what will be the last roles that will be shown for Bruce Willis here on camera. It's tough to say. We don't know when these movies will be released, but he has, of course, finished filming an Untitled trilogy of films for Lionsgate. He's also got another Lionsgate film called Wire Room, which is set to debut later this year. He has a movie called Wrong Place. He's got a movie called White Elephant. Another movie with Saban Films called Paradise City, which he'll be teaming up with John Travolta again, you know, those who did Pulp Fiction together, and also Look Who's Talking together, a movie I loved when I was a child. And yeah, he's got a lot of stuff still coming. So he, you know, it's sad that he announced his retirement, of course, and we wish Bruce the best possible, you know, obviously, with this situation. I'm sure it's a tough situation to be going through. And of course, best wishes to his family as they're there to help him as well. It's great that he's got a great family around him. But man, you know, an absolute legend in the world. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. A lot of people know Bruce Willis. You all love Die Hard. You watch it during Christmas because you think it's a Christmas movie, and maybe it is. But I mean, I know I watched it during Christmas this last year. So, best wishes to Bruce Willis, man. Legendary actor going out. Make sure you watch one of his films, be it Die Hard, be it Last Boy Scout, be it, you know, whatever you choose to watch. Just celebrate Bruce Willis, man. And a little bit easier to celebrate Bruce Willis. I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan, as a lot of people know. If you don't know, hey, huge Kevin Smith fan. And, you know, he and Kevin Smith got into a pretty, you know, an ordeal, if you will, where they didn't really see eye to eye on the set of Cop Out. That was the film that Kevin Smith directed with Bruce Willis starring. And since then, it's always kind of been like an issue there. And, you know, Kevin Smith's been open about it. You can find videos on YouTube about all that stuff. But he did tweet out after finding out about this and wishing the Bruce the best and everything. So, yeah, man, tough situation. And again, as always, we hope the best for Bruce, and, you know, whatever can happen here. You know, long, successful career in acting. Definitely didn't want it to end this way for him, but, you know, a lot of films still coming from Bruce Willis to, you know, check out and celebrate his career, and make sure you go see them or watch them to make sure he gets the, you know, some celebration. With that, man, there's talks of another legendary actor hanging up the acting gear, I guess. Not the same situation as Bruce Willis here, but just, you know, at a point where he feels like it's time where he can do it. Jim Carrey recently spoke with Access Hollywood, saying that he is close to retiring, pretty much planning on retiring, saying the actual quote here, well, I'm retiring. Yeah, probably. I'm being fairly serious. It depends if the Angels bring some sort of script that's written in gold ink that says to me that it's going to be a really important for people to see. I might continue down the road, but I'm taking a break. End quote. And it's interesting there. He said he's taking a break there. He did say retiring at the beginning, but he also said taking a break. So no real idea if he's actually retiring or maybe just taking an extended period of time off. For instance, nothing really new. He was in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie in 2020, which is the first major film role he did since 2014's Dumb and Dumber 2. So he can go these long periods without doing anything big. He'll do, like, you know, little independent things or something like that. But he did end up saying later on in that article, I quote, I really like my quiet life, and I really like putting paint on the canvas, and I really like my spiritual life, and I feel like, and this is something you might never hear any other celebrity say, as long as time exists, I have enough, I've done enough, and I am enough. So, Jim Carrey has a movie coming out this weekend that we'll be talking about later. Maybe you need to go to theaters and see that to support Jim Carrey. Could be the last film he has released in theaters. may not be. Who knows, man? But Jim Carrey, absolute legend. Probably one of the first actors. I mean, I think probably he was one of the first actors ever. Became a huge fan of, loved, and every time he had a movie come out, like, gotta see it, man, gotta see it. There's only one of his movies I haven't watched, um, and that was The Majestic. And there's a reason I haven't seen that movie, and it's not because I have a problem with him doing serious roles. I don't. I have absolutely no problem with that. It's more of a matter of kind of a personal situation here, but my grandma was never a fan of Jim Carrey. Like my granny, she was never a fan of Jim Carrey. She didn't like him, thought he was an overactor, and she would have never wanted to see any of his movies. But she saw a preview for that Majestic movie. She's like, I'd see that with you. And sadly, she ended up passing away before the movie came out, and I've never brought myself to actually watch the movie. So that's other than that, I've seen all of Jim Carrey's movies. I absolutely love Jim Carrey, and if he is retiring, man, big bucket to win, as they say on Babylon over there, Kevin Smith's show. Fantastic career for Jim Carrey. I mean, he's not, like you said, he's happy, and if he's happy, man, that's all that matters, dude. Obviously us fans will miss him, acting, but it's his choice to take time off, and he wants to take time off. More power to him, man. All right, jumping into some horror news here. And I thought this was an April Fool's joke. I even sent it to got a group chat with my friends. I sent it to them, and I'm like, freaking F it, man. This is this is probably an April Fool's joke, but apparently it's not. Bill Skarsgard, fantastic actor who, of course, you probably know best for playing Pennywise the Dancing Clown in the It franchise, the latest It movies, It 1 and 2, which I need to go back and watch, man. I haven't watched those movies in a while. He has been cast to play Eric Draven in the reimagining of The Crow. Now, The Crow has been something they've been trying to get off the ground for a while now, and it's always kind of fell flat. Most recently, there was an expectation or belief that Jason Momoa was going to end up playing the role, and they'd be doing the reimagining with him, but that ended up falling out as well. And, here we are now, where we've got Bill Skarsgård attached to play Eric Draven in the reimagining of The Crow. Rupert Sanders will be directing the film, and he had this to say about it, quote, "The Crow is beautiful, dark, poetic, and sometimes disturbing. It is a story of love, loss, grief, and revenge. It is a great honor to revisit James O'Barr's iconic comic and reimagining The Crow as a foreboding voice of today." Now, of course, he mentioned James O'Barr, which was where the story came from, which was originally published back in 1989. And then, of course, you had the film that was released in 1994, starring the late Brandon Lee, which has, of course, become a cult classic and, has people up in arms. But anytime a new Crow film is mentioned to release, and there's been this huge belief that there's a curse of the Crow and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've never seen the Crow film. I know the cult classic, the cult following that it has and everything, but I have never dove into the movie and to check it out. Honestly, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick search here, see what it's on. Maybe I will check that out and do a spook show review for it, because it is kind of a horror-related movie, right? Well, they say it's action fantasy, but you get a little bit of horror to it, apparently. And honestly, just looking at it here, it looks like a lot of horror sites have been posting about The Crow, but the movie itself is not necessarily considered a horror movie. I haven't seen the movie myself, so I can't really say if it's a horror movie or not. It looks like it has horror images or horror moments in it, so maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But nonetheless, The Crow is being remade, and it is on Paramount Plus. If you want to check it out, maybe I can check that out on Paramount Plus as well. But yeah, there we go. That's the latest in Crow news, is that Bill Skarsgård is attached to play the main character in the film. So we'll end up seeing where that ends up going. Let's see, over at NBC Universal, they are developing a series called Pinned, which is a drama set in the world of fictional wrestling promotion. The project is described as an adrenalized upstairs, downstairs soap that gives a behind-the-scenes look at a fictional wrestling promotion and the unforgettable characters that populate it. Pinned offers a front row seat into the eccentric wrestling culture and the mayhem that exists between the locker room and the boardroom. And this show will be executive produced by Vincent Kennedy McMahon himself. Of course, the other wrestling show on NBC Universal is Young Rock, which takes you through the life of course, worldwide phenomenon, The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And WWE has another show where they've partnered up with Blumhouse TV called The United States versus Vince McMahon, which will be going into the WWE during the 1990s, a time when McMahon was reportedly censored by infamous New York Post writer Phil Mushnick, whose columns eventually drew the attention of the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York, who ended up indicting Vince McMahon with the U.S. government and all that. So I felt, that was some news that came out here. We'll see how that show goes. I will definitely be watching it. And, it fit this episode because we talked WrestleMania at the beginning. Let's see, over in DC land, we've got, is this my last news? All right. Last thing we got here news-wise, and this is DC news, is that Sharon Stone is in final talks to play the villain in the upcoming Blue Beetle film. The character she'll be reportedly playing goes by the name of Victoria Cord, spelled with a K. This is basically a new character created for the film and believed to be the wife of Ted Cord. Cord is the second Blue Beetle in DC lore. The movie was originally supposed to release on HBO Max, but was moved up to theatrical release, or moved up. Who knows, man? In this day and age, a movie going straight to stream is not necessarily a bad thing, or maybe it is. Who knows? I don't think it is. But the movie has been moved from HBO Max to a theatrical release on August 18th, 2023. So, Blue Beetle's on the way, and Sharon Stone is your villain, man. So there you go, man. That does it for the news, which takes us into what's releasing this week. Got a good bit of stuff releasing this week. Actually, starting off with, teased this earlier, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. We talked about Jim Carrey, and this may be Jim Carrey's last role if he's retiring. Sonic the Hedgehog is PG. It's a fantasy adventure. It's 2 hours and 2 minutes. That's hilarious. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is 2 hours and 2 minutes long. This will be in theaters. The world's favorite Blue Hedgehog is back for a next-level adventure in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. After settling in Green Hills, Sonic is eager to prove he has what it takes to be a true hero. His test comes when Dr. Robotnik returns, this time with a new partner by the name of Knuckles, in search for an emerald that has the power to destroy civilizations. Sonic teams up with his own sidekick, Tails, and together they embark on a globe-trotting journey to find the emerald before it falls into the wrong hands. Fun. Love Sonic growing up, man. Played that game a lot on the Sega. And I enjoyed the first film. If I remember correctly, I haven't seen it since I saw it that one time, but I think I enjoyed it. I say a lot. I know. I'm sorry, guys. That's just how I am. I'm awkward. So I don't plan on seeing this movie in theaters, just to be honest. Even though it may be Jim Carrey's last film, I didn't see the first movie in theaters. I don't see the need for me personally seeing it in theaters. If you want to go see it in theaters, please do. Let me know what you thought about it without spoiling. But we'll see, man. We'll see what ends up happening. I don't know if I'm making it out to the theaters this weekend or not, but if I do, I don't think Sonic the Hedgehog will be the movie I see. Again, more power to him. Wishing the best. Loved Sonic the Hedgehog growing up, and I still hope the best for Sonic the Hedgehog. Other film releasing this week, which may be the film I see in theaters if I make it out to the theaters this weekend, and this is going to be Ambulance. It is rated R. It is an action crime movie. It's 2 hours and 16 minutes. This is also only in theaters. Over one day across the streets of LA, 3 lives will change forever. And this breakneck thriller from director-producer Michael Bay, decorated veteran Will Sharp, played by, oh my god, I'm going to mess that name up, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who was in Candyman, is desperate for money to cover his wife's medical bills. Not him. His character, Will Sharp, is desperate for desperate for money to cover his wife's medical bills. Asks for help from the one person who knows he shouldn't be asking for help from his adopted brother, Danny, who's played by Jake Gyllenhaal. A charismatic career criminal, Danny instead offers him a score. The biggest bank heist in Los Angeles history, $32 million. With his wife's survival on the line, Will can't say no, but when their getaway goes spectacularly wrong, the desperate brothers hijack an ambulance with a wounded cop clinging to life and an ace EMT, Cam Thompson, played by Isaac Gonzalez from Fast and the Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw, and Baby Driver. She is on board. In a high-speed pursuit that never stops, Will and Danny must evade a massive citywide law enforcement response, keep their hostages alive, and somehow try not to kill each other, all while executing the most insane escape LA has ever seen. Does sound interesting, sounds fun, also sounds like an FX original movie. And it's directed by Michael Bay, which also screams FX original movie. It's funny, Michael Bay was kind of in the news where he told a story about when he was talking about this movie, about how Steven Spielberg told him to stop doing Transformers movies after the third one, but of course he ended up continuing to do Transformers movies, and they all did pretty well until they got to that one with Mark Wahlberg, and it flopped. I believe it was called The Last Night. Anyways, Ambulance is hitting theaters this week. Also releasing this week, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. This is rated R, sci-fi comedy, 2 hours, 12 minutes, also in theaters. Starring Jamie Lee Curtis, or she's in the movie, she's not the star, but she's in it. When an interdimensional rupture, pretty sure that's supposed to be rupture, sure, unravels reality, an unlikely hero must channel her newfound powers to fight bizarre and bewildering dangers from the multiverse as the fate of the world hangs in the balance. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is out now. Has very high scores. Critic score is high 90s, and the audience score is high 90s as well. Let's see, Metal Lords, rated R, comedy drama, 1 hour, 37 minutes, will be hitting Netflix. Two kids want to start a heavy metal band in a high school where exactly two kids care about heavy metal. Hunter is a die-hard metal fan who knows his history and shreds. His dream is to win the upcoming Battle of the Bands. He enlists his best friend Kevin to man the drums, but with schoolmates more interested in Bieber than Black Sabbath, what the hell? Finding a bassist is a struggle, until Kevin overhears Emily playing the cello. Cello, it's a bass. The motley crew, C-R-E-W, must contend with school, parents, hormones, and teen angst while trying to get along long enough for Skullfucker? Is that the name of the band? To win the Battle of the Bands. I'm watching this. I mean, I'm watching this as soon as possible. Are you kidding me? This sounds fantastic, dude. I'd go to theaters to see this, without a doubt. This sounds like a good fun time. An hour, 37 minutes. It's a freaking sweet amount of time here. Freaking, dude, sign me up. I'm in. I am absolutely in. Let's see, we got Midnight, a mystery thriller, 1 hour, 43 minutes. This is in theaters and streaming and is sitting at a 100% critic score right now on Rotten Tomatoes. A serial killer ruthlessly hunts down a deaf woman through the streets of South Korea after she witnesses his brutal crime. Does sound pretty good. And the last thing we got here is All the Old Knives, rated R, mystery thriller, 1 hour, 41 minutes. This is in theaters and streaming. When the CIA discovers one of its agents leaked information that cost more than 100 people their lives, veteran operative Henry Fallon, played by Chris Pine, is assigned to root out the mole from among his former office mates at the agency's Vienna station. His investigation takes him from Austria to England to California, where he is reunited with his one-time colleague and ex-lover, Celia Harrison. The pair are forced to blur the lines between profession and passion in this riveting tale of global espionage, moral ambiguity, and deadly betrayal. There you go, man. That's stuff that's releasing this week. I am most excited about freaking Metal Lords, man. That sounds fun. But a lot of good stuff, honestly, releasing this week. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 should be fun. Ambulance sounds like a good time. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once looks interesting. Midnight sounds good, and All the Old Knives sounds pretty interesting as well, man. So overall, pretty solid lineup this week for you peeps to check out. As for me, man, that does it for the news and what's releasing this week. So that means it is time to go to the review. But before we get there, we gotta play our trailer. So hang tight. The trailer's coming at you, and then I'll give my thoughts on Morbius.
You need a doctor?
I am a doctor.
I should have died years ago.
People all over the world have my disease.
from here. To find a cure, we have to push the boundaries, take the risks.
If you're gonna run, do it now.
People are strange.
Dr. Michael Morbius, you've been missing for 2 months.
When you're a stranger,
Then you were found on a container ship that washed up off of Long Island.
faces look ugly. When you're alone,
What did you do to yourself, Doctor?
I wish I knew. I went from dying to being more alive than ever.
It worked.
Not exactly.
I have increased strength and speed,
In some form of bat radar.
what else can I do?
There are limits. There has to be.
There's something inside of me. It wants to hunt and
Consume blood.
Michael.
when you're a stranger, faces come
Can you control it?
I don't know.
Half the city wants to kill you.
remembers your name.
We haven't had anything this good since that thing in San Francisco.
When you're strange,
The other half wants to control you.
Hey, Dr. Mike, you and I should stay in touch.
I'd do anything to save a life. But I don't know what I'm capable of.
You save lives, you don't take them. Are you here to heal the world? Or to destroy it? Who the hell are you, Matt?
I am Venom. I'm just kidding. It's Dr. Michael Morbius at your service.
Alright, man, welcome back to the show. That was the trailer for Morbius, the latest Sony Spidey film released. It is rated PG-13 for some frightening images, intense sequences of violence, brief, strong language. It is a fantasy action film coming in at 1 hour and 44 minutes and is currently only in theaters. One of the most compelling and conflicted characters in Sony Pictures' universe of Marvel characters. Jesus. Let's run that back. One of the most compelling and conflicted characters in Sony Pictures' universe of Marvel characters comes to the big screen as Oscar winner Jared Leto transforms into the enigmatic anti-hero Michael Morbius, dangerously ill with a rare blood disorder and determined to save others suffering his same fate. Dr. Morbius attempts a desperate gamble. While at first it seems to be a radical success, a darkness inside him is unleashed. Will good override evil, or will Morbius succumb to his mysterious new urges? Now, Rotten Tomatoes has this film at a critic score of, yikes, 16%, which actually went up 1%, so hey, and an audience score way, way, way higher at 70%, while IMDb has the movie at, shocker, 5.2 out of 10. If you're new to the show, the reason I say shocker is half the time IMDb scores are like 5 point something out of 10. Like, I feel like they don't even try sometimes. Like, let's put it right in the middle. Yeah, sometimes I've seen 7s. And, most of the time I've seen like 5 point something is normally where they go. So how did I feel about the movie? Finally, it is here. As of April 1st, released on April Fool's Day. Morbius is finally here. And it's a film that was supposed to come out a while ago. And when I say a while ago, I mean back in 2021. It was originally supposed to release on July 10th of 2020, and then it was moved to July 31st, and then it was moved again to March 19th, 2021, and then moved again to October 8th, 2021, and then again to January 21st, 2022, and then again to the 28th of January of 2022, and then it was finally delayed till April of 2022, which it then eventually end up coming out. I think that's one of the problems with this movie. It's one of the first things that kind of happened with me going into the film. I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, I went to see this movie Thursday night. That was the only opening I had. And I was fairly interested in seeing the movie, obviously, because I would go to the Thursday night opening, went to the latest showing they had possible. And, you know, I was, obviously interested enough to go to the, the opening night and see it when it was released in theaters. So I was interested enough to go see it in theaters. But I wasn't as interested as I was when I first saw the trailer for the film, because I think just the long delay and everything is like, the same thing that, you ran into with the New Mutants, where you're like, yeah, we're excited about this, and then it just took forever for the movie to finally come out. Now, of course, this was a different situation from what I remember. I think New Mutants was postponed for like director changes and screenwriters and all that stuff. This movie was postponed because of stupid ass COVID. So, finally the movie came here. I sat there, I watched it, and, I had a decent time with it. I don't think the movie is nearly as bad as it's being made out to be. I don't think it is a 16%. That's insane. Now, obviously, again, and as I mentioned in the last couple of episodes, and again, if you're new to the show, the reason I give those scores is not because those are the end-all, be-all scores. That's just because to let you know, people have differing opinions, and it shows very well here that the critics give this thing a 16%, while the audience is having a fairly decent time with the movie at a 70%. And I'm in that same boat, man. I had a fairly decent time with the movie. I enjoyed the things I was watching. I think Jared Leto, obviously fantastic actor, and I think he did a good job throughout the film. I like the horror elements that are in the movie. I'm always a fan of vampires. I really love vampires. They are my favorite. When people ask me, who's your favorite Universal monster, I always say Dracula. And, I just like vampires. Twilight's its own story. They decided to do some different kind of thing with vampires, which was their deal. I haven't watched all the Twilight movies because I don't hate myself enough to do that. Just kidding. Not really. But I'm totally joking. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't fairly judge them. Just saw the first one. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting take. I don't need to watch any more of these. Or for a while. And then, anyways. So like I was saying, man, I had a fairly good time with it. The script is not amazing by any means, but it's decent enough. It's not the worst script of a movie I've seen this year, and by any means. But overall, the story is what it is, and I like the effects of the movie. You see some of them in the trailer there, which, by the way, that trailer, just watching it now after seeing the movie, interesting. That's all I'm gonna say is interesting. But yeah, man, I like some, and I saw this in an RPX theater, so it's, that's like the big theater, and like, the seats rattle and all that stuff, and stuff happens, and there was moments of that when it happened, and I was like, that's pretty cool, man. It was a fun time, so I'm glad, made me a little happier, a little more happier that I saw the movie in theaters, especially RPX. I don't know why I picked RPX for this movie, man, but personally, the way I look at the movie, and I'm trying to think if this is a spoiler or not. Not really, because I kind of went through it in the synopsis there, and then what you heard in the trailer as well. So the movie, to me, is how it feels. It's a monster movie, obviously. It's a vampire film. Vampires are considered monsters and all that stuff. So it's a monster movie, and while it involves vampires, what I came out of this movie thinking is this movie is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but with a vampire. That's the feel I had with this movie. And I think Leto, I don't know why I said I so many times just then, turned into Alpha 5 from the Power Rangers. Wow. But I think Jared Leto did a great job of portraying what he needed to portray in this film, and I've seen recent stories come out since the movie's come out where he did the method acting thing again, which, more power to him. I think he did, again, Jared Leto's the star of the film, and he's obviously portrayed it that way. They had, God, I don't want to call him the Doctor Who actor. Let me try to pull up his name. But I know him from Doctor Who, which is hilarious because I've never seen an episode of Doctor Who in my life. Matt Smith, he's in the film. I thought he was good. A little over the, he's yeah. He did good. He did good in the movie. Michael Keaton, obviously, is in it. This is my first time seeing, I'm going to get her name wrong. I think I said Trina Adjona. definitely messed that up. But she was good in the film. You know, the cast is fine. Like I said, the story's not the strongest story in the world. You know, the best thing I can say for the movie is one, I didn't hate it. Like, I didn't come out of that movie at all like, God, I wish I didn't see that movie. Like, I didn't hate it. It's not at the bottom of my list of films I've seen this year. It's not. I don't know if it'll make the top 10 at the end of the year. Most likely won't. But, I mean, it's a fine film. I mean, that's the best thing I can tell you. It's a fine film. Like I said, it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you know, with a vampire. It's got some good horror elements to it. Not the strongest script in the world. Acting is pretty decent. The You know, I don't talk about cinematography. I can really care less. I mean, you know, honestly, that's for somebody else to talk about. You know, I liked some of the special effects in the film and all that stuff. I like the vampire aspects. You know, it felt like, I told my buddy this when I was leaving the theaters, it felt like an early 2000s superhero movie. And you know, thinking about that, and what I've seen is like one of the worst ranked Marvel or superhero films on Rotten Tomatoes, putting it close to the Fantastic Four movie that came out a while ago. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think this movie's better than that Fantastic Four film. And honestly, I should have pulled that list up to see what the other films are. Here we go, I found it. So, some of the worst ranked superhero movies to come out in the last decade. Just some of them here, and this is how it stacks up. So, Batman vs. Superman has a 29%. I personally think Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Cut? I think that movie's really good. So I think that's better than Morbius. Ghost Rider, I haven't seen, so I can't be fair there. That's a 26%. Green Lantern, 26%. I say Morbius is better than that movie. Suicide Squad, 26%. I like the Suicide Squad movie. I'd put this Morbius movie pretty close to it. This is, again, that's Suicide Squad 2016. Blade Trinity, 25%. Yeah. I haven't seen the movie enough to fairly judge, just to be fair. X-Men Dark Phoenix, 22%. I say Morbius is better than that movie. And then it's ahead of Batman and Robin, which, yep, absolutely better than that movie. It's better than Fantastic Four, 2015. It's better than Catwoman, yep. Okay, so that does that. I mean, personally, again, I don't want to, hash over the same thing. I think the film's fine. So obviously I'm not giving it a glowing review of saying, hey, you got to go see it in theaters, because I don't know if you do. I'm going to be fair with you, and especially the credit scenes vary. There's 2 credit scenes, and I'm going to be honest with you, they feel very forced, very rushed. Don't know if Sony 100% knows what they want to do with the next films. Very, very obvious what they want to do with the next films, but I don't know if they fully know, especially how forced those credit scenes were. And it's up for debate if it makes sense or not. And I'm leaning more towards the line that it doesn't make sense. But of course, I'm not spoiling what happens in the credit scenes there. So, I'm going to be honest with you, and this is going to be off the radar, and people are going to be like, what the hell? I enjoyed it more than the Venom films. That's just me, I didn't enjoy the Venom films all that much, just being completely honest. If you enjoy them, awesome, man. It's fantastic. I have no problem with you enjoying what you enjoy, as I would expect the same towards me. I think Morbius is a better film than both of those. So overall, for me, I'm not going to tell you to go see the movie in theaters, unless you want to support theaters and help theaters grow. Obviously, please go out and see it in theaters. I think it's fine to wait for streaming. Don't know when that'll be. They have, it will obviously go video on demand before it hits any streaming services. Yeah, I would say it's a couple months from now. It should be streaming on video on demand for you to pay $19.90 whatever for it. And then it'll be on Netflix sometime in like 2023 because, Sony signed that deal. I think it's called the pay one window or whatever. So it will go to Netflix first, and then it would go to Disney after that because Disney signed a deal with Sony because, of course, Spider-Man films starring Tom Holland are Sony-related films, and they would get them after Netflix has the rights to them. But, and let's just look at the box office here. The movie is at $83.9 million. What was the budget? The budget was between $75 and $83 million. You know, I mean, again, the movie was made to come out in 2020, so, and, you know, just not to give it, you know, leadway or anything, but the film was not released in, oh god, what am I thinking? It was not released in, Russia. Jeez, I don't know why it's hard. It was not released in Russia because of the conflict that's going on with Ukraine. So, you know, it could have gotten some more money there from there, but I mean, you know, overall, it's doing all right, I guess. You know, it's based on the fact that, I mean, you look at it, we're still dealing with, I guess, I don't know if we are. I mean, WrestleMania just had 77,000 people, so I don't know. I don't know what the restrictions are based on states. You know, I don't have the time to look. I didn't look it up. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Overall, I mean, it's got 83.9 million in its first less than a week of being out. I think that's pretty good for it. You know, the critics are back and are really dogging on the movie. There's some critics that enjoy the movie, giving it B ratings and all that stuff, which is going to happen with critics. It's like I said, it's all over the place. Me personally, had a good time with the film. I like it more than the Venom movies. I like it more than a couple of these other superhero movies it's being compared to. I like the horror aspects. I think Jared Leto's good. The script is all right. It's not great. I mean, basically, what I'm telling you here is the movie's not great. It's borderline good. You know, it's fine. The movie's fine. It's a fine time. I didn't leave the theater upset. Didn't leave the theater unhappy about anything. You know, the credit scenes, maybe a little bit. I'm like, what the? I was like, maybe that works, but at the same time, because you know, I like to give things a little bit of credit here, a little leadway, because you know, filmmakers and storytellers have their own rights to tell whatever they want to tell. But at the end of the day, I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. You know, it took me a while because I tried to defend it for a while. I'm like, eh. After sitting on it for a while, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that. But the film itself, I enjoyed, personally, give or take. I know I enjoy films that other people don't enjoy. That's how life works. I enjoyed it. I think it's far better than 16%. I'm you know, closer to the audience score. I don't have an actual audience score, but 70% sounds like the audience is enjoying it. I enjoyed the film. Overall, personally, me, enjoyed the film, had a decent time with it, didn't hate myself afterwards after seeing it. I like it more than the Venom movies. It was a good time. It was a good time. I'll gladly watch it again once it's on streaming. I'm not going back to theaters to see it. I'm not going to rent it for $20. I don't see any need to own the movie at any point in time. It's a fine film. It's a fine film. You know, it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't seem like this critic score is really pushing people away by any means. I mean, $83 million is a good amount of money for a movie that had a budget of around the same amount. So, obviously, you know, people will tell you got to double it because of marketing and all that, yada, yada, yada. But, you know, there's also COVID times, and that budget was back in 2020, so who freaking knows? You know, who knows at this point? Who cares? The movie itself is what you should be focused on in the movie. According to me, decent film. That does it, man. Talked around in circles. I said the same thing about 15 times there. You get it. But nonetheless, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Again, check out the Thrill Me Podcast Network on the YouTube as well as the Facebook. We all have got our Instagram, so Zach Speakeasy, Mr. Wonderful Show, my show, Metal Groove. I mean, Josh has an Instagram. And again, welcome Josh to the Thrill Me Podcast Network, show that deals with the metal and rock scene. And, you know, stay tuned. Again, later this week, you got the Mr. Wonderful Show. You've got Zach Speakeasy already out, is Haunter's podcast, and the Metal Groove, man. Freaking great times, dude. So happy and excited about all the stuff that's going on. Can't wait to see where things continue to go in the future. Can't wait to see what we get from Halloween Horror Nights as that's coming, and, you know, we're ramping up for stuff for that. And overall, man, things are looking pretty good, man. So, as always, appreciate you taking the time to listen to me babble on this show. I'm so excited, getting very close to episode 100, man. Gotta think of something to do for that episode. Will I think of anything to do? Probably not. We know me. But, nonetheless, there will be an episode of 100 soon. So exciting, man. Can't believe I'm at 100 episodes. Oh, man, that's wild. But, that does it for this week. I talked a lot more than I expected. Appreciate you all, and as always, remember, happiness can be found, even in the darkest of times, if one remembers to turn on the light. Chat with you next episode.
Thank you for joining me this week. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to get updates on all new episodes. As well, follow me on Twitter at review_it_Rob. Stay tuned for more adventures.